이국장님. 알버트 람 좀 연락 주세요.
네?
알버트 람.
알버트란 뭐예요?
네. 시작할게요.
예?
네, 알버트 람 좀 오라고.
어떻게 계시죠?
호텔에 있어요. 안녕하십니까. 지금부터
We will now begin the 11th International E-Mobility Expo. This session, we will be providing English, Korean simultaneous interpretation. I would like to first introduce the distinguished guests. Mr. Jo Hwan-ik, former Vice Minister of MOTI, and he is co-chair of the organizing committee of IEV. Park Jung-woo, former chairman of Samsung SDI, he is advisor to the organizing committee of IEVE. Park Tae-sung is here as well.
세계 EV 협의회
Chairman of GEAN is here as well. Pyun Young-chul, head of Jeju RIS Intelligence Service Business Division, is here as well. He will be arriving soon. Kim Jae-young, LG Energy Solution CTO, is here as well. Kim Kwang-sub, Director of Hana Aerospace as well, is present. Bang Song-yong, CEO of Green Energy, is here as well. He will be coming. Also, we will be joined by Mr. Albert Lam, Chairman of Detroit Electric Holdings. Also, we have Yu Chung-yeol, representative of the Ministry of Commerce, Government of Quebec in Korea. We also have Mr. Kim Chae-won. Also, we have Mr. Kim Hong-min of Jeju Energy Corporation. Also, specially joining us over Zoom is Mr. Vic Narousis, Executive Vice President of Arizona Commerce Authority. So we don't have the members here for signing of the MOU, so we will change our agenda. And first, we will hear from Mr. Jo Hwan-ik. He will give us his opening remarks.
When I introduce myself to you, I think that he skipped a very important something. I was a former president of KEPCO. About 5 years I served there. That's why I know something about electricity and power. I know how valuable it is. And that's why when we have this e-mobility expo, the battery, I believe that should become or should receive spotlight. Then why battery is of the great value to us? That's what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk about where we are right now when it comes to battery. And we have distinguished guests from home and abroad. Dr. Park and Vice President Shim and Director Kim, and first and foremost, we have Vice Chairman Park here with us. Intel Battery 2024 drew the most attention, so we set some kind of milestone thanks to him. He knows everything about batteries, and he knows all the battery industries at home and abroad. So he's an expert, And I believe that he is going to deliver a very informative presentation today. Not only Korea, but also the rest of the world, the keyword is 3D. First D is digital, second D is decarbonization, third D represent decentralization. And digital, as you may be aware, it's kind of dominated by AI. And when it comes to decarbonization, we do not no longer talk about global warming. Rather, we call a global boiling. In 2015, the Paris Agreement obliges us to limit the global warming to 0.5, but what we have left is only 0.3 degrees. We do not have much room to go. So economically, socially, we do not have that much measures for us to tackle the global warming. But no matter what, I believe that electricity or power will be the basis on which we can find solutions. And as for digital, digital is dominated by AI, but AI is based on data center. In Korea, the operation and the permit was given to more than 7,000 services or data centers. I believe that it's because the power bill is very low. Our electricity prices are too low. That's why we are attracting too much data center, because they consume a huge amount of electricity. They need to collect all the data, analyze, and then it requires a lot of coolant. And 1.5% of all the power generated in the world is consumed by data center. And over the next 10 years, it's going to increase by 10 to 20%, and its demand for power will continue to increase in line with the number of data centers, which will increase. So in 10 years, I believe that 20% of the power may be consumed by data center. It shows you how much the electricity is consumed by data center. Then what about decarbonization? We need battery to achieve decarbonization too. Fossil fuel will be gone and replaced by renewable energy, and we need to reduce the amount that we consume, because renewable energy has limitations and nuclear power has limitations too. And on top of that, no matter how much power that you generate, you do not have enough grid or system to transport the electricity generated. Super power transportation lines were installed, and then we faced a strong resistance from those people who are living in the areas where we plan to build the transportation facilities. Then the third is decentralization. Unless you become independent when it comes to electricity, you cannot achieve decentralization. And in this context, we need battery, and 20% of the industry has been electrified. And by the year 2050, 50% will be, all the industry will be electrified. Now, the thermal energy and power for the home consumption, household consumptions, and industrial consumptions, all the power should be provided by or electricity. And what matters most is to have a good facilities to transport them, which requires a huge investment. So all boils down to the necessity of developing batteries. So yesterday when we had the forum, we had a very informative discussions, and even the UAM, the batteries required, and not only for the transportations, batteries will be used for the storage too, and then it can be used to power different vehicles. USS will be used across the industries. The electric vehicles consume a huge amount of batteries, but I believe that more batteries will be required for the industries. And for the small devices, we need batteries too for them. So you have to be confident that the batteries will be the foundation on which we can make a further growth. In the past, we believe that semiconductor will be the engine for the future growth, but it will be replaced by battery. For the AI, the upgraded AI, we need to have electricity to operate it. So out of all the electricity consumed, the battery portion is bound to increase. That's what we understand. And all the business players understand this. That's why Korean companies make investment in the US and other countries so that they can be the pioneer in that industry. And they are making much more efforts far ahead of what the government does. And electric vehicle forum has been renamed into e-mobility because e-mobility encompasses not only electric vehicles but also communications, sensors, and other devices and equipment that require electricity and battery. The demand will continue to rise. Then we need to be able to store the power so that we can use it whenever it is necessary on time. So let me tell you that battery industry will grow, definitely grow in the future. And yesterday I asked this question to Chairman Kim. We are at the watershed, and we are about to make important choices for the future. So for the batteries, we have many different types of batteries. We need to make a choice, the best one out of that. Which one is most effective? Which one is more efficient? And how can we beat China? China is chasing very close behind us, and they have a good level of technologies. And China has a vast domestic market and has a strong support from the government. And they are very fast implementing innovations. Chinese manufacturers are no longer producing cheap batteries. They are investing in the premium batteries too. And we have other competitors such as Germany and Japan and other countries. Then what shall we do in Korea? What kind of support that we need from the government? What are the strengths that we have? That's the question we need to ask and find answers. And we have a first presenter, Vice Chairman Park, and he will be talking about the battery industry. And then second presenter will be talking about the supply chain. We have a conflict between China and the US. Once Trump, if it becomes a president, do you believe that IRA will remain the same? There are many challenges lying ahead. And I believe that this forum will give us an opportunity to find solutions and answers to the question that we have. What matters most is pay interest and pay or give your support to the battery industry. And once again, I'd like to tell you that you can be confident that battery will be one of the most leading industry in the future. So in several years, you will be the one highly demanded by all different sectors of the society. Thank you. This concludes my...
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from Mr. Park Jong-woo, advisor to the organizing committee of IEVE.
우리 지금 종환의
Thank you so much. You delivered a very good opening speech, leaving a little behind for me to say or add. As for the battery industry, I agree that it's going to be the future driving force, like a semiconductor. It's going to be at the center of the industry in the future. I believe you have seen it and you have experienced so far, not only in the electric vehicles, electric ships and airplanes, they will be powered by batteries in the future. Otherwise, the industry cannot grow or expand. And in this context, what are the challenges and realities? We have a number of problems, environmental problems we need to tackle. And as for the batteries, batteries can raise or deteriorate environment too. How do we deal with the wasted batteries? How can we reuse them? These are the questions we have to raise and find answers to. And 600 kilowatt is what we can achieve as of today. So technology-wise, it will continue to evolve. And what matters is how can we best utilize it. So finding the answer cannot be done by a single company, which means that we need to collaborate. Raw material problems, and let's say that you manufacture batteries, we need to source raw materials. Where do we get it? And nickel, mangan, and other raw resources. The nickel batteries will continue to grow. Then what problems that we gonna have in the future? Nobody knows for sure. As I said, we need to share ideas and need to collaborate and co-work so that we can develop jointly and then we can find solutions too. We are no longer living in the era where a single company dominates the market. As you know, in the US, all the global battery companies, as Chairman Joe said, they are making investment in the USA because they are implementing a very smart policies. Battery is one of the core industries of the future. That's why they are attracting the battery players from the rest of the world so that they can have a complete supply chain. So we need to make investment in the USA, and also we are kind of allured by the subsidy offered by the US government too. And I feel sorry that we have to do the same in Korea. The government should provide the same kind of support to the business players too. So today I'd like to share your ideas. And battery is one of the most important project or topics. But I am sorry that we do not have a big turnout, but I believe that all the key players are here today at this venue. So since we are together at this forum, let's form a good network on which we can grow further together. China is leading the battery market, no matter how much effort that we make, but technology-wise, we are at the forefront. And we need to take advantage of that. So for those of you who are here with us today, we need to collaborate. We need to co-work so that we can write a new chapter of the battery industry. So thank you for coming and welcome to this venue. And let's take this opportunity to share ideas and come up with the good solutions. Thank you so much.
네, 감사.
Thank you. Then we will reorganize the stage and begin our MOU signing ceremony. Thank you.
세계 EV 협의회
We would like to invite the chairman of GENE, Kim Dae-hwan, head of Jeju RIS Intelligence Service Business Division, Byun Young-jae, head of Jeju Energy Corporation Regional Energy Research Center, head Bu Ho-jun, as well as Professor Je Chun-hu of Tsinghua University Smart Grid Business Division. Please come up to the stage.
지금부터
Now, the MOU on Mutual Business Corporation for joint development of electrification businesses and network building between Korea and China will begin. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at an early hour. So the expo usually was held for 1 week, but due to the COVID pandemic, it was reduced to 4 days. So we do not have enough ICC rooms, and simultaneous sessions are being held nearby at Puyang Hotel as well. So we have asked you to come at an early hour at 9 a.m. Thank you for attending. Before COVID, Tsinghua University and Jeju have the biggest issue of energy power limitations, generating capacity limitations. So we are emphasizing making changes in China, even more so than in Korea. Decentralized power and other issues are being discussed so that our Jeju Energy Corporation Regional Energy Research Center are serving as a bridge so that we may put forward advances. And these efforts we have culminated in this meeting since 5 years. So our director as well as our president have come here and attended here to witness this signing of MOU. This is a very meaningful ceremony. Thank you very much. Then we will begin the signing ceremony. After signing, please send over it over on to your right. Thank you.
소명이 다 끝나셨으면 일어나셔서
So if your signing has been completed, please stand up and please show the MOU to the camera.
이로써 앞으로 한국과 중국 간
So therefore, the MOU on Mutual Business Cooperation for Joint Development of Electrification Businesses and Network Building between Korea and China has been signed. Thank you very much.
다음은 테이블 정리한 후
Next, after we reorganize the stage, we will do the MOU signing ceremony with the Arizona Commerce Authority.
김용 이사님 남아 있나요? 아니, 빅 나르시스 남아 있나요?
Do we have Executive Vice President Vic Narcissus online? Could we have him on the big screen, please? Thank you. Today's MOU will be signed between co-chair organizing of the chairman of the GIN, as well as Arizona Commerce Committee president. However, Sandra has not been able to join us. She has sent over a signed copy of the MOU. So could we have Mr. Vic Narcissus on the big screen? We can sign a little bit later. Please hold on. Then Mr. Vic Narcissus, before he comes on stage, Chairman Kim Do-hwan will give a short explanation of the MOU. So our MOU signing with the Arizona Commerce Authority, as well as Austin, Canada, Quebec, as well as North America electrification business is being conducted and being pushed forward very aggressively with Arizona as well. So officially with Arizona, we will be conducting cooperative action along with just like Quebec and Texas. So opening up this age of electrification, this will mark the opening of this age. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello, good evening. 연결이 안 됐나요?
Do we have him online? Are we connected with Mr. Narcissus?
How are you? I am here. Okay, thank you for joining. Would you please say a few words to congratulate the signing of the MOU between the Global EV Association Network and then the Arizona Commerce Authority. Please say a few words to congratulate our signing MOU. Please.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for this honor and opportunity to extend our work together. And on behalf of Governor Hobbs and Sandra Watson, our president, we look forward to the opportunity to work much more closely together in the future to address the important issues that were identified in earlier remarks. And please know that we stand at the ready to support your initiatives, and we're greatly excited to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your joining, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank
그러면 두 분께서 일어나셔서 기념 촬영을 해주시겠습니다.
Then both of you, would you please stand up and pose for the group photo? We have a chairman of co-chair of the organizing committee and Carbon Nano Council chairman. He's also co-chair of the Expo coordinating committee. Would you please give him a warm round of applause? And on the back, we have Global E-Mobility Council Philippine Electric Vehicle Associations. Rommel, President Rommel is here with us. Thank you for coming. And Global Battery Forum is supported by the electronic newspaper and the Sound of Jeju, and the vice director of that organization is here with us. Thank you. So we are going to take photos now.
감사합니다. 그러면 테이블
Then we will reorganize the stage and hold a group photo commemorative session.
오늘 포럼에 참석하신 네 분.
The distinguished guests who have joined us today, please come up to the stage.
And Roma Huan and then the foreign guests. 단체 사진 보내드릴게 내가 이걸로 찍고 제가 찍어 보내드릴게.
하이드 발표 자료
40분에
네 지금 카톡으로 보냈습니다.
예. 그러면 자리가 정.
So as soon as we have all taken our seats, we will begin our forum.
단상으로 조한익 공동위원장님, 박태성
Co-chair of the organizing committee and the Vice President Jo and Director Kim and also CEO Bang, would you please come up to the stadium or stage, rather?
오늘 주제는
Topic is e-mobility competitiveness, the strategy of the global supply chain of battery. That's the topic of the session. And then this session will be chaired by Co-Chair Jo. Would you please welcome him with a warm round of applause? Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe that all the key members are here with us. Chairman Bach, as he said, collaboration is required. He emphasized we need to cooperate, and these are the ones who need to cooperate. So let me introduce the speakers. Would you please welcome them with a warm round of applause? We have a Vice Chairman Bach from the Korea Battery Industry Association. We have Kim Kwang-suk from Hanwha Aerospace. He's a director, and he's going to talk about ESS. And Kim Jae-young is from LG Energy Solution, and he is a CTO and Vice President. Last and not the least, we have a global startup, Greenergy, and its CEO, Bang Song-ryung. So he's from a new startup company, Startup Greenergy. Thank you. And shall we begin the keynote speech first? And Vice Chairman Bach, please, the stage is yours. Thank you. As introduced, my name is Tae-sung Bach from the Korean Battery Industry Association. Sorry that I didn't share the script. Actually, I sent you, but it was not shared. Can I have my slide on? Thank you. Very glad to be here in Jeju, carbon-free island, and congratulations on having this expo. And for today's conference, I have Dr. Jo, Chairman Jo, with us. Very honored to be with him on the same stage. And he is a co-chair of the organizing committee. And as for the Chairman Jo, I believe that he made this conference more meaningful. And for a long time, he has, the Chairman Kim has dedicated to the battery industry, and Chairman Bach also is here with us. Thank you for your support for the battery industry. As I'm here, I got the feeling that we have all the experts from EV and battery, and I feel very humbled to make a presentation of a kind of keynote speech. Feel very honored at the same time. This is an agenda. I'm going to talk about the current status of the battery industry and the challenges that are lying ahead. Recently, I have got this data for the battery industry. We have a chasm of an electric vehicle and the competition with China, and then the supply chain challenges are the three challenges that we are facing right now. On a short term, we have problems, and also on a mid and long term, we have a issue of a growing competition, and then problem with the supply chain. How can you overcome such challenges? And I hope today's forum will lay the foundation for the K battery so that it can grow further. And as of today, we have a dull market because of the chasm of the electric vehicle. As you see here, the electric vehicle market situation is not that bright. As you see here, over the past years, the EV has grown 50%, but last year it has grown only 30%, and this year it's going to be projected to grow only about 20%. More skeptical forecast says that the growth will be only around 15%, not even 20%. What are the causes for that? The main reason is that we are shifting from the early adopter stage to the mass market. That's the diagnosis that we got. And what does it mean? The consumers, for the eco-friendly purposes, they have purchased for that purpose, but in the future it may be different. The performance and prices will be important factors affecting the decision making. So whenever they make a decision on the vehicles to purchase, they will consider not only the eco-friendliness, but also the price and the performance. So the battery market situation right now is a kind of a pain, inevitable pain that we need to experience and go through before we have more mature market. So for the medium and long-term perspective, it will continue to grow in the end. So this kind of bottleneck will be a short term. And it is supported by the data. So as for this year, there was a more than 20% growth. And for the future, on the average, more than 50% growth will be experienced in the battery market. The global market and the chasm problem, does it have only skeptical aspect only? Not necessarily. Because in line with the electrification of the electric vehicle, we believe the battery market will grow. In advanced countries, the carbon neutrality will remain as a long-term goal. So what matters will be the speed or pace. The pace will be a bit sluggish than expected, but that is not going to be very negative in the long term. And as of today, there is only one single local area that have achieved a parity of power parity. So for the future, we have some time for us to be prepared to reach the good parity. For the battery industry of Korea, they have invested in the capacity expansion. But now we have some time for us to relax and then prepare to make a second leap. So taking that into account, I believe that we can use this as a good chance for us to make another leap. And another aspect that we need to think about is the hybrid. On a short term, electric vehicle and battery, they will have a better performance in the future, and consumers may prefer hybrid on a short term. I do not believe that hybrid will be a replacement of the electric vehicle in the long term, because for the circular economy, hybrid cannot support as much as electric vehicle does. Then let me have a look at the global battery market and its competition. As Chairman Zhou and Chairman Bach mentioned earlier, the battery market of the world is led by China. Nobody can deny that. It has the biggest domestic market and also has the largest number of battery companies, and price-wise and supply chain-wise, they are the number one. That's the current status of China. However, the strong dominance enjoyed by China and also the supply chain, which is called a red supply chain dominated by China, triggered some counteract measures taken by Europe and USA. As you know, EU started to investigate the subsidy provided by the Chinese government. And as for the US, the Minister or Secretary of Treasury went to China and talked about the excessive supply of a battery by China. And the tariff is 27% for those electric vehicles coming abroad. The duty imposed as of today is 27.5%, but it's likely to increase. So on a long term, the Chinese dominance can be something we can take advantage of. It poses as challenges and opportunities for us. As I said, the dominance of Chinese players can be seen in this data too. As you see on the slide, back in 2010, when electric vehicle was in infancy, the battery market of the electric vehicle was in infancy too. And the total volume was 1 gigawatt, and the market was dominated by Japan. What happened over the years? Last year, China dominated market, replaced Japan, mainly because it has a huge domestic market of China. When we have a look at the global market, with the exception of the China still is a number one, dwarfing Japan. And the market share of major players is shown at the bottom. And as you see here, the dominance of Chinese player is 94%. The domestic market of China is very unique because it's dominated by Chinese players, almost 100%. So it's unique in that regard. So when we have a look at the top 10 players, CATL and BYD, they have grown dramatically to top different lists. Back in 2011, there were 3 Japanese companies in the top 10. But right now, we have only one company, Japanese company, remaining there, Panasonic. And the red one represents Chinese players in the table. And with an exception of Chinese market, when we have a look at the global market, global top 5 include Korean Energy Solution, SK-On, and Samsung SDI, SK-On. And we have Panasonic and CATL. So they belong to the top 5, where BID is a global number 6. And this shows you the fact that China has grown, taking advantage of the captive domestic market. And top 5 players will lead the global market. That's what I project or forecast for the future. Now I'm going to talk about the response from the USA. USA does not have a battery industry on its own. In order to build a battery ecosystem, they have implemented very attractive policies in the name of IRA. For those battery industries, a huge number of battery companies made investment in the USA, and so much so that it's called a black hole of a battery. And there are 3 initiatives. First is a subsidy for the battery, and then second is AMPC, and third is FEOC, which put aside those companies who are from China. For IRA, the former President Trump, he said that he would abolish IRA once he took office. So depending on who becomes president, IRA will have a different fate for the future, but we get the feeling that it's not going to be easy to abolish IRA. Why? Because it's a bill written into the law based on the bipartisan agreement. In order to amend the law, the Republican Party need to dominate both the Senate and Houses of the Representative, which is going to be very difficult for it to do. But nobody knows what will happen in the political scene. So we try to collect data as much as possible and try to come up with alternative solutions. Then what's going on in EU? EU cannot provide a huge funding support, unlike the US does. So they are taking advantage of the united market of EU. First, they introduce a flexible laws and regulations. First, EU banned the sales of the combustion engine vehicles, and then implement environmental regulations to draw investment of battery players. What about Japan? Secondary battery revival policy has been implemented, and back in 2022, Japan announced a battery industry strategy. However, it didn't achieve that much good outcome till now. And that's one of the reasons why they introduced a tax intensive recently. And for the production and the sales of the domestic market, the tax initiative is provided for those production and sales in the domestic or Japanese market too. Then let's move on to talk about the competitiveness landscape of Korea. As for Korea, small lithium battery mass production was launched in 1999, and 10 years has passed. And then the mass production investment for electric vehicle was made. Back in 2023, we have a market volume of 1,000 trillion. And passing that, in 2026, the Korean battery industry's production will reach around 1 terawatt hour. The K battery has not been dependent upon the domestic market. We have tried to go global from the beginning. Over the past years, we were in deficit. However, continued to make a further investment to make or achieve the growth that we are witnessing today. What are the strengths of the Korean battery industry? We have #1 technology for NCM battery, and then we have quality manufacturing facilities and capacities and human resources. On top of that, compared to Japan, China, we have ESG and global experience and capacity are the strengths that we have. They are invisible assets, but they will play a very important role for the future where it can help us to grow further. Then what about the weaknesses? The minerals and key raw materials are not in Korea, but in other countries, including China. We are not rich in raw materials. That's one of the weaknesses. Then what about the investment? Investment overseas, compared to Japan, we are making preemptive investment overseas. That enabled us to be attracted by other countries. And whenever we have a summit, battery industry is one of the most important top topics. However, our battery industry investment is focused on the North America to dominate market first compared to the others. So as you see here, we have investment across the 7 states, and we have Arizona Commerce of Detroit joining us, and we have a representative from Quebec. Thank you for coming. And if I check the performance of overseas investment, I believe that it has been very positive. And also the US welcomed our investment. And from the Korean perspective, it was a positive move for us to make. And to be more specific, out of 36 automotive models, and 30 models have adapted Korean-made batteries. And the market share of K-battery in the US market was just 36% in 2022, which has grown to 40%, above 40%, and it is expected to grow to reach 50 to 60% in 2025. So at least in the US market, we can beat the Chinese players in 3 to 4 years. Then what about the Europe and Southeast Asia? It's a totally different story because there is a cutthroat competition taking place against China. In Europe, Poland, Hungary are where we are making preemptive investment. So we enjoy 75% of the market share there. However, Chinese players made dynamic investment and then supplied their product at a much lower price, which brought up their market share dramatically. So their market share was at 12% in 2019. It has grown to 40% in 2023. In Southeast Asia, Malaysia and Indonesia is where we made preemptive investment in battery. I was an ambassador to Indonesia, and back then I witnessed the collaborative project between Korea and Indonesia. And this preemptive investment, it's very important and has of great meaning. But not only Korea, but also China are making efforts. In the nickel refinery industry, 70% of the market is dominated by China. As for the electric vehicle, centered on Thailand, BLE has grown their market share at a very rapid pace. So for the future, we do not know what will happen in the future. The competition landscape is hard to predict. Then let's move on to the investment in Korea, in the domestic market. Most of the battery players, whenever they make investment overseas, people worry that they may not pay enough attention to the Korean market. And as you see here, 25 trillion won has been invested in battery, but most of them took place overseas. And joint investment is the main form, so the order contract is kind of a long-term one. So we need to understand that we need to make an overseas investment. Despite that, we need to build and expand the local ecosystem for battery industry. In order to do that, they should have a mother factories in Korean market and make more investment in there. Substances and materials and components are the areas that need more investment. As for the Korean government, they have designated 4 areas to create a special industrial complex. They include Cheongju, Pohang, Jeonbuk, Saemangeum, and Ulsan. And they announced a plan to invest 30 trillion won by the year 2030. To boost Korean business, we should have some dramatic, more aggressive incentives provided by the Korean government. Then let's move on to talk about the technology. In March, the Ministry of Science of Korea published a data that compared the comparative technology of different countries. When it comes to the secondary battery, Korea was number 1. I'm proud of that. But when we have a look at the details, we are closely chased by China. So let me have a look at the data. China in the entry market, they have a superior position in LFP market, whereas Korea enjoyed bigger market share in the premium battery market of NCM. But volume-wise, we have a cutthroat competition going on with the pricing. So it's hard to predict what will happen in the future. For the LFP, there are many mixed or different opinions, with the EV going more popular. Then we need to diversify our battery portfolio to include LFP, let alone NCM. But as for the luxury premium electric vehicle, NCM is adopted. So luxury vehicles prefer NCM. To be an innovative leader, the premium battery is where we need to be the top. And that's what we have done, and we should remain the top when it comes to NCM. And for the next generation battery, the competition is around the electrode. And for the patent, Samsung SDI, they have announced a roadmap for the battery of electric vehicle. But China is chasing very rapidly. For example, CATL R&D investment is much more than what the 3 Korean companies do combined. And such kind of competitive investment may make a difference in the quality of the batteries produced in the long term. And this means that we need to make further investment. In addition to that, we need to diversify the supply chain. By the year 2030, our dependence on the overseas supply should be reduced by 50%. We can do that by having different materials to produce batteries and also make direct investment in the countries rich in mineral resources, and then have a good supply network in the North American market. And for the raw materials, we are making huge investment in the alternative materials and reuse of the materials or batteries. And as for the investment in mineral-rich countries, we are making investment in Indonesia. So from mining to the battery production, Grand Package Consortium is created so that we can cover the total supply chain. As for LX International, Indonesian nickel mine was acquired by the company so that they are in the mining industry too. In Australia and Argentina, Chile, we are making investment to secure raw materials. Then, in order to boost comparativeness of the battery industry of Korea, what shall we do? The government and National Assembly, in order to make Korea the super leader, they try to lift regulations and provide financial and tax incentives. On behalf of the industry, I'd like to thank what the government has done. However, we need to do it more in order to be a first runner. I believe that we need to do more over the next 3 to 5 years. Investment, R&D, and human resources development are the areas we need to focus. We should have a more preemptive or better support from the government. If so, we will be able to grow more competitive. First, we need to have a good environment. Here, we need to improve the tax system. And then we need to introduce a direct refund system. or scheme so that those battery companies who make investment overseas can have their benefit by having the cash refunded from the government before they achieve or before they turn surplus. For the future, we need to build good supply chain to secure key minerals and provide more support so that we can have access to the key minerals and materials. And third, we need to make investment in R&D. Ministry of Industry of Korea announced the investment, and the investment in battery is only 1/5 that of the vehicle industry, and only 1/4 of that of bio industry or semiconductor. So we need to double the investment in R&D and provide more tax incentives. Fourth is the human resources for the battery industry. We are making investment in the areas outside the metropolitan region, which means that they find it difficult to secure human resources. With the support from the government, they will build and open the battery academy so that we can generate more human resources for battery. So more support need to be provided so that we can have more schools in the middle area of Korea and southern area too. And then we need to build an ecosystem. Not only from the production, the recycle and reuse should be integrated into the ecosystem. So far, the regulation has been focused on waste management, but it should be shifted to recycling of the battery so that we can support the circular economy. And such a bill will be enacted into the law. I hope that the National Assembly will adopt this bill and make them into a law. And to be a global leader, we need to cooperate and collaborate with other players. Once we have a better cooperation, we can build sustainable battery supply chain, but at the same time, through building reliable partnership, battery industry will grow further in the future. So let me summarize or wrap up. Battery industry, carbon neutrality and electrification requires battery. For the supply chain, battery can be an asset. K Battery, working together with other players across the world, we can achieve the carbon neutrality earlier than later. We need your support to achieve that. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.
박태성 부회장님 수고 많으셨습니다.
Thank you for your presentation. You have given us almost a summary of a whole book in your short presentation. Thank you again. What was most notable was that regarding R&D, funding is much more needed. And I agree with you 200%. So semiconductors, auto industry support, compared to these, only 1/7 funding is available for batteries. So there needs to be much more support in the future. Thank you. Next up, we have three presenters, panel presenters, who will be giving us discussion remarks. First, would we want to hear from Mr. Kim Kwang-seok? Then we will hear from Mr. Kim Jae-sung. So we will keep this to about 10 minutes.
I'm from Hana Aerospace. I'm in charge of a battery business. My name is Kim Kwang-sup. I was with Samsung SDI, was engaged in the battery development. Once I moved to Hana Aerospace, I worked for the battery for the defense. So today, he talked about the current status. There were about 2 new information that I saw. The battery is spreading across the industry, so please pay attention to that. What I want to talk about is the current status of the battery industry in Korea. Next page. Should I click? I'm going to talk about the current status of the market with a focus on EV and ships, electric ships. I believe that it's going to be a first time for you to see that information. Then defense industry information will be touched upon. Market share will be touched upon too, followed by the 4 main materials, technology roadmap. I believe that this is a global trend, and next generation battery and recycling will be touched upon in my presentation. SNE data is the main source. I got the permission to share this information with you. For the EV, and as you see here, EV market is in dire straits right now. However, they have grown above 10%. But to the left, over the in 2020 and 22, it has grown explosively. And the infrastructure investment made there didn't enjoy the return, and the market has been sluggish somewhat this year, but I believe that in the long term, it will continue to grow. To the right, this is the projection of the battery use. As you see here, it has grown above 10%. Not only in China, but also in Korea, we have experienced that level of growth. Next page. Electric vehicle ships. With the IMO regulation in place, eco-friendly ships are spreading. Even though it's kind of slow, then the electric vehicle, it has continued to grow. In 2021, it has grown 14%, expected to grow 21% by 2050. So in 2032, $10 billion market will be the volume. And eco-friendly ships, the coast ships will be the main source of growth. And they produce a huge emissions or exist when they cruise around the coast. So replacing batteries will help us to reduce such contamination. So all the numbers and figures are shown on the slide. And battery built-in ratio, and as for the outward bound ships, in line with the coast ships, more batteries will be used. And this is the trend that we expect. And by the year 2024, battery will grow to experience 18 to 20% growth. And this is a battery capacity per ship, far to the right. What about the submarine for the defense? This year, for the first time, the lithium battery has been used for the submarine, and it is put in operation for the first time. It has replaced, lithium has replaced the old ones, and the driving range has increased dramatically. As for the eco-friendly ships and EV, we are under regulations. However, the lithium battery for the defense industry, the performance has improved dramatically. So not only in submarines, but also the other surface vehicles and aeroplanes for the defense industry, the battery will be more adapted. So keep in mind that the growth potential for the market is very big. For the K Defense, our target is to be the global power, and more than $20 billion investment will be made. Korea, China, and Japan, the market rate. As mentioned in the previous presentations, market share of Chinese players has expanded. As of now, China has dominated more than 40% of the market. In the North America, K battery has expanded, but not that much in Europe and Asia. Why? Because of the price and other aspects. As for the production capacity in 2023, 1,169 gigawatt. And by the year 2030, it will grow to reach 3,800 gigawatt. As I said, the battery industry will grow above 10%, which means that the production capacity will grow too. What is outstanding is that these companies will have this kind of supply capacity increase. We have LG here. As for the overseas market, LG tops the ranking. Hope that you can continue to do a good job. And this is technology roadmap for the key 4 materials: premium and low level price and medium level products are the division of the market. So the market has been broken down into these based on the price. So we have the premium down to the low price market, and by material we have cathode, anode, and separator market. As for the cathode and anode, they will continue to grow.
이 중에 이제 음극 쪽이
As for the anode, UAM for the airplane is what we aimed for. high power voltage 10C is required for that. With the existing graphite battery, we cannot support because it doesn't have the performance. That's why we are using silicon. So some of the Chinese companies, they are using 100% silicon. Some of them are going with that. But we failed to do so. But overall, carbon and silicon are more used, and silicon oxide is used to provide better voltage, power voltage, or output. Key materials are for the lithium price has declined somewhat, but on a long term, it has continued to rise. The raw material prices have been on a steady increase, which have put us in difficulty. And I know that we are in dire straits because of the trend of the prices going up and the dependency of the supply. We are dependent upon China for its supply. As you see here, for the cathode and canode and the electrolyte and separator, we have a high dependence on China. We have a plant to process them, but the raw materials are from China. So when it comes to raw materials, we are highly dependent on China, as I said, especially the anode. More than 84% are from China. POSCO has a plant in Sejong and also has another plant being constructed in Pohang. However, it is dependent on China because the raw materials, most of them are sourced from China. Let me have a look at the LFP market. Back in 1999, when the battery market started to grow, 100 million won export was difficult to make. But it has grown very much. This means that the LFP proportion has grown. I was in development, so in the initial stage, we make a decision where to go, NCM or FEP. We had a heated discussion where to go. And especially the company that I was with, NCM, the premium technology is where we should go. That was the decision made back then. As for the LFP, the Canada had the patent, but it has expired. Since then, the Chinese players jumped into the market, and we were behind the market in terms of price and the mass production. So LFP market has grown, relying on the low-price product supply from China, but we need to keep an eye on it. And for Korea, I believe that we need to have our own facilities to produce LFP. What about the next generation battery? As I said, SDI, they will start a mass production of the solid-state batteries in 2027. What about the production equipment? Assembly. And These are the trend of electrode manufacturing, assembly, and formation. And new technologies are developed by different players. Recycling, I know that they are in difficult situation right now. However, by the year 2030, the market will grow to reach 14 million and 48 million by the year 2040. So continue to make investment in that. This is a recycling business going on in Korea. Saemangeum is the center, and Ulsan and Pohang, they're in collaboration to support the recycling business. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.
회장님 감사합니다.
Thank you for your presentation. Next, we will hear from CTO Kim Jae-young. He spoke yesterday. He will also speak today. Thank you. As introduced, my name is Kim Jae-young, CTO from LG Energy Solution. I have been developing batteries for 25 years. We are short on time, so I will just go over the highlights. The market growth, we have all been speaking about this. And about in 2020, 2030, the lithium ion secondary batteries will be about, in Korean won, 500 trillion won amount or size, and about 80% of that will go into electric vehicles. And EV demand for batteries will be overwhelmingly large, and about lithium-ion batteries will be about 500 trillion Korean won. As we can see below, we can see our average annual growth of LGES, and our market has actually grown quite large. So our company has also benefited from this. So our principle is that R&D will be conducted in Korea. So it will be in Gwajeon, Gwacheon, as well as in Mapo and Seocho in Seoul. So main R&D will be conducted in the Seoul and Daejeon area in Korea. However, manufacturing will be globalized. So for the first time in 1999, LG, when we were LG Chemical, we started producing LG batteries, and we had an LG manufacturing complex in 2024. We started manufacturing in China, Namgyong, and then we went to the US. In 2012, we started commercial manufacturing. We made a big decision back then in 2012. There was no IRA Acts, so we invested a lot into plants in Michigan. In 2018, 2019, we started commercialization in Poland as well. For the first time, lithium-ion batteries, we entered into the China, the US, as well as Poland, both when we were LG Chemical and LG Energy Solution. So it is difficult for us to invest alone, so we are entering into the markets along with our OEMs. So Indonesia, for example, we are going in with Hyundai Motors, and we will be commercializing manufacturing this year, end of this year. And production is being conducted elsewhere as well, along with Hyundai Motors there. Stellantis, we are also cooperating with Canada in joint venture form as well. So we've got various joint ventures being conducted. So we can see that our capacity by 2026, 550 to 570 gigawatt per hour. This will be about 80 kilowatt is about one battery car. So we can see about 7 million cars can be run with our capacity that we can put out per year. So people to people may have different outlooks. However, global cars, around 100 million are manufactured every year. So how many EVs will account for this total amount of cars? Some say 20%, some say 50%. So maybe about 30%, that would be about 20 million. So we'll need about 50 million capacity worth of batteries. So the second slide, it also touches upon what I said yesterday. It's an explanation of where opportunities lie. I'm not sure if you can see, but everything begins from materials, so nickel, cobalt, also graphite are included in all these raw materials, as well as and from there we would go into cathode and anode materials, and from there we would also continue to create and manufacture separators and conductive agents. Then we would go on to manufacturing. So Samsung SK would be the manufacturers with various processes, and modules and pack type batteries can be used for IT, as well as for ESS, as well as EVs. Applications vary. Also, we are speaking a lot about recycling or reusing as well. So in terms of EV, power output is very important. So with battery use, the battery capacity or battery output will become decreased. So after a while, a battery won't be suitable for use in a car. So we would reuse or give a second life to these older batteries that have been used in cars. So this is one concept for reusing batteries. And after a long term of reuse, it may be very difficult for reusing further. So there may be cobalt or copper or lithium. These materials are still valuable in itself, so we will need to extract them and recycle these materials. The raw material sections would receive these retrieved raw materials, and they would be used in different ways. And this would complete the ecosystem. And there are various R&D that are required along the way in this entire ecosystem. Overall, the R&D will need to be continued along the line. I've given a short explanation, but say, for example, anode materials, separator, electrolyte materials are being developed in Korea, even for new materials as well. So second, manufacturing. The battery itself may be eco-friendly, but the process itself, it may not be very eco-friendly, so it consumes a lot of power. And there may be some toxic solvents. So the approach that we need to take is to make improvements along these processes. So we have been using solvents, and we have been using wet processes, but using these solvents, we will need to do recovery on these solvents, and energy goes into solvents. So a lot of heat goes into drying these wet processes. So the dry processes are very important and more eco-friendly. Also in smart factories, these will be the future method that we will need to go. Also, we call these packages, and the packages may be in aluminum pouches or they may be in prismatic cans, or they may be in cylindrical shape. So these are the three main forms I'm sure you know. We also have the BMS and pack areas. So battery packs in itself, if we're using it by itself, it may not be a big problem. But if we have a lot of them and we're making them into a module, we need to make them into a packing. And there are many mechanical components that are required for operations. So lots of R&D is required in this sense. Also important is BMS, Battery Management System. As I mentioned earlier, so the resistance of used batteries will become bigger. So we will actually need to know exactly what state the battery is in. So we need to know how much the battery degradation has been going on, how much capacity loss there is, and we need to diagnose exactly what the battery is capable of, and this will be an important factor of BMS. So these technologies, the development is very important, and so we are focusing a lot of resources into this. So lots of raw materials extractions, and this is another area where we are focusing a lot of development into. It's not an easy issue, but efficiency is key. Last slide here is about patent competitiveness. Yesterday, one of the questions that I had was, when competing with China, how will you win? I answered that one area is for global operations. We have lots of experience, lots of prior engagements, and a lot of time will need to be expended to catch up with us. That's the first one. And secondly, LGES patents, we have taken them preemptively, so it's difficult to say with certainty, but one thing is certain. We do have a lot of patents, and we are always emphasizing the importance of patents. And fair competition is necessary. If someone is starting from ground up and developing R&D from the square one, but some people may not use or expend the same amount of time and energy. So a fair competition and fair ecosystem for competition is required. And we have about 41,000 patents that, and so LGES, we are the number 2 or number 3 in number of patents globally. So the patents activity is very fierce at LGES. I have written down past, present, and future on the right side of the slide. These are the future patent directionality that we will be taking going forward. And we have been focusing a lot on materials, new materials especially, as well as new processes are being developed. In the future, 4680 or 46890, as well as dry electrode processes will be important. New manganese-rich materials or next-generation battery are being developed, and lots of concern. There is lots of concern over whether next-gen battery will be possible. But I do believe that this is the right directionality. However, solid-state battery, whether or not this has actually been created, is less important than having future competitiveness going forward. So, having a actual product that has competitiveness, it's a issue for a farther future. So we hope that we will continue to put our best feet forward in developing batteries. Thank you.
감사합니다.
Thank you. So our technology level related to batteries, Mr. Park Jae-hong and of LGES, all our distinguished guests have been tremendous players in the battery area. As mentioned earlier, the battery industry it needs to be bigger than just the three major companies. Raw materials, as well as cooperation and competition with overseas companies, as well as next generation battery is being focused on by Green Energy, and we will hear from Green Energy. Hello, my name is Pang Sung-yong of Green Energy. Hanwha Energy Solution is a very great company and has been operating earlier than us. But we are a battery company that has been, we are a startup, and we are using a combination of materials that have not been used in Korea yet. We have been open since 2017, and we are doing R&D in Seoul and manufacturing in Chungju. We have a small lab in Boston as well for next-gen batteries. The LTO batteries, modules and packs are being developed and manufactured by us. Especially LTO may be unfamiliar to many of you. LTO is manufacturing is created by Toshiba in Japan, about 2 trillion won manufacturing. So, and it is not a battery for electric vehicles. Details will be explained later on. However, when I was preparing this material, I had to consider many issues. I knew that all the other speakers would be talking about the current status of batteries. And I wanted to touch upon some of the opportunities and future direction going forward. So this is pretty much the same as earlier. The EV market has been growing at a breakneck speed, but the growth spurt has slowed down somewhat since 2024. And I believe that is one of the reasons why we are sitting here and discussing this. And this chart is from Bloomberg BNEF, and 103% from 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, 60% growth. And growth has been slowing down. However, growth will be steady now from here and now. This is my thinking. But electrification is required not only in cars, but also in many other applications. So this is for the transport sector, and this is the CO2 emissions by transport sector. So cars is 40%, heavy machinery and trucks 34%, aircraft 11%, ships 11%, and railway is 4%. And here we can see electrification. So the auto electrification ratio is about 10%. Leading this is Tesla. However, as Hanwha Aerospace executive director has said, he touched upon marine application, and there is almost zero electrification. In Korea, the subway is almost 100% electrified, but globally, railway electrification will be necessary. Most of it is still using fossil fuels. global railway length, if we consider the total length, we can see how much of it is electrified. Korea, Japan, and China, about 70–80% is electrified. However, in the US, where railways are still being used a lot, only about 1% of the railway length is electrified. So from West Coast to East Coast, if we transport cars or parts, it is being moved with fossil fuels. Then by industrial sector, we see how much battery is being used. So cars, lithium-ion batteries are being used mostly. However, almost 90% of internal combustion engines are being using lead acid and LIB. Aviation also requires battery. So when turning on the jet engine and when flying steadily, they are using nickel NICD. In marine application, it is mainly lead acid, and in railways, NICD as well as lead acid and LIB are being used. So then, in other words, the energy sector is not being satisfied with one specific type of battery. There is a diversity in the need or demand of batteries. The UK Avicen Energy has provided this chart, and this is the required megawatts on the left. And the lithium-ion batteries, the dollar value may be highest. However, NICD, lead-based or NICD energy, based energy is used the most. It is marked in green. It was developed 200 years ago and is being used. And the market will continue to grow. There's lots of reasons for this, but the NCM safety and low heat are some of the reasons why NCM are being used widely. In 2019, the UN report said that NICD recycling applications are not being applied properly. So say, for example, in Bangladesh, there's lots of recycling. And in 2019, in Bangladesh, about 3.3% of all deaths are related to nickel-related deaths. So this safety has become a very big issue. So lithium, titanium batteries, you can see on the slide right now. Lithium titanate oxide, it reduces the possibility of explosion. There's low heat and therefore a longer lifetime duration. Of course, LTO batteries are not perfect. The voltage is about 3.3 to 5% volts, so the percentage of power is lower. So it may not be applicable to all industries. So Green Energy, our company, is focusing on not on phones or laptops, but rather we are focusing on vessels and heavy machinery. So we want longevity as well as reliability, and these are where LTO will excel. One example, as the speaker from Hanwha has said, the IMO said that by 2025, They have a goal of reducing GHG emissions by 100%. In order to achieve this goal, the vessel shape and the structure will have to be improved, as well as motor and battery systems will need to be improved as well. So then this is a explanation of why LTO is advantageous in this use. So lithium-ion batteries may sometimes result in fires, and some of these fires are very hard to extinguish. And if there are lots of them, it's very difficult to extinguish them while on the move on the sea. So a new battery solution type is required in terms of vessel-loaded batteries. So in the vessels, the UPS that have been used, different types have been developed and are being used right now. We don't have a lot of time, so this will conclude my talk. But the car battery has about 80% of the market. However, 20% of the transport sector, the remaining 20% also requires electrification, and energy density, as well as reliability in extreme conditions, will be very important as well. So there needs to be a diversity of batteries in the electrification sector. So NCM batteries may be required in certain sectors, but in other sectors that require specialized batteries, in other sectors, they will need different diverse batteries. Thank you very much.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much. For the future, the niche area is what you have found. I believe that you can make a success. Sorry that time is up, so we are gonna just entertain some questions or comments from the floor.
All questions from the floor. 한 두세 분 정도 좀 받도록 하겠습니다.
A couple of questions or comment?
You have some idea.
Yeah, I just have a comment early on when the LG CTO, sorry, I forgot your name, Mr. Kim. Hi, Mr. Kim. Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of we cannot just look at battery just in isolation. We need to look at battery manufacturing, the process of manufacturing. As you know, in the formation of the battery, you use a lot of energy as well in terms of discharging and charging so that the cell can be mature. In that sense, that energy has to be green as well if we're ultimately trying to cut carbon footprint. So that's very important. The second part is the recycling. Current OEM, a lot of car manufacturer does not have that built into the vehicle itself. Now, we take a very conscious, my company, my vehicle company, take a very conscious view in terms of how we can plan, put in redundancy and put in steps so that when we, let's say after driving 5 years of that vehicle or 10 years for a bus, that we can take out the battery, it can be easily recycled. Now, it's tough because different battery pack has different BMS balancing. So if you need to work them together, it's tough. So, but in working together and in isolation, so that you can do ESS within the battery itself, for the second life battery, is very important, so that you extend the life. Maybe the battery is not good enough for you to drive the car, used for the driving of the car, because the range has degraded. But for the home storage, definitely is very, very good. And then the final point you made in terms of recycling those material, right? After the second life battery has been depleted, then how do we recover some of the material? That's all very important, and then feed it back to the chain. So I really like the slide. That's why I took so many pictures of that final slide of yours. I think not just look at the creation of the battery, but what we're going to do with the recycling is very important for sustainable, truly sustainable solution. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful comment. Nothing to add, but as I said, in addition to what I said, as you mentioned, among the battery manufacturing process, we have an activation process, which requires extra energy. So from the R&D perspective, we try to eliminate the activation process. It's going to take time. However, I believe that we will find a solution. Minimize the energy consumption will be the target when it comes to the process and the raw material utilization. I see. Thank you so much. We have a very valuable guest. Ministry of Science and Technology, he is one of the top pioneer, and please share your comments. Anything to add? Thank you for giving me an opportunity to make a remark. And as for Dr. Bang, Green Energy's presentation, I thought that he might have a hard time to get investment or funding. As for Dr. Kim, he was with a big organization. I believe that he had difficulties as well. Did you have an opportunities to draw investment or funding? And no matter what, I just want to take this opportunity to appreciate or give thank you to all of you. Thanks to your efforts, we are here right now. And I'm going to hand over microphone to Bang, Representative CEO Bang, and want to hear from you. Last comment.
So I also worked at Hyundai Motors as an engineer, and I also did battery pack and energy architecture in Tesla as well before creating my company. So related to LTO, it was commercialized in 2011, 2012. In 2007, I moved from Hyundai Motors to Tesla, and it was only the Tesla Roadster that was being commercialized. There was no other cars, and it's a 12-volt NICD batteries only. So in 2015, Apple Titan project created a shuttle bus. This was an opportunity I took, and I was actually very convinced by other professors to actually start my startup. So in Korea and in overseas, about 200 megawatt size battery factory is being created, and about 3.2 million investment has been sent into this, and a rental plant that we have in Chungju is being operated. We have all gotten all the accreditations, and we really need a lot of help and support from you. We are like a small shrimp amongst a school of whales. But I have been abroad a lot, and in Korea, it has only been about 3 or 4 years since I arrived back. During my sojourn, the NCM battery and the EV battery, the market is skewed toward these, NCM and EV. So alternative niche markets also need a lot of support. I also worked with LGES. We have done a test pilot manufacturing with LGES. We have also worked with, we know that we have a superior capacity compared to Toshiba and other companies. And we have also been working with Sweden and other companies related to aerospace. Thank you very much. Then lastly, please hand the mic over to Professor Park, the Carbon Nano Association chairman. So materials is my area of expertise, and in terms of e-mobility, materials plays a big part in auto, aviation, and vessels. And materials are the key to resolving a lot of issues in batteries. When developing auto vehicles, in Korea, hydrogen fuel cells is one of the directions that we're taking. U.S. commercial auto industries also making different footsteps. Vessels and drones. Hydrogen fuel cells are doing a lot of research, and there's lots of work toward commercialization. And in terms of recycling batteries, materials, the cathode, anode, as well as lots of different other materials. We are depending a lot on overseas. And one single material dependence is quite high. In the mobilities industry, the batteries are, of course, one of the most important factors. Lightweightness of batteries are also an important issue as well in terms of price competitiveness and recyclability. So recycling battery materials in overseas markets. You mentioned nickel-related deaths, lead poisoning, sorry. And I would like to ask, when we consider recycling, how will we gain the price competitiveness? The lithium-ion batteries and next-generation batteries, in the future, I think they may coexist in the future. So could you tell us a little bit about the technological outlook that you think of? So this is a question to a lot of the panelists. So could you give us a short answer?
Thank you for asking very important question. It implies a lot for the raw materials to boost the competitiveness. We need to do a better job of recycling. I fully agree that. And what we are doing for recycling, then what are we doing for recycling? From the process of the battery cell manufacturing, we generate scrap, and after using the electric vehicle, after reuse, we have a wasted battery that can put into the recycle or reuse cycle too. And after that process, we have a wet process, and representative companies in Korea, Seongil and Goryeo Iron, they are involved in these businesses. We have many other SMEs who are ready to get into this market or in this industry. As for the LFP battery, for the circular economy, we may put it in the cycle. And LCM, do we have a competitive edge? We have different views. But for the NCM recycling, its ecosystem, once we have a good ecosystem for that, for recycling and reuse, then we can have a better competitive edge against LFP. That's what some experts believe. Then how much can we recycle? About 95% based on the current technology. We can mine the materials very high, and in the commercialization, we can have up to 90%. We need to wait and see. But as for the mineral acquisition and mining, if we are able to have 95% of the extraction of the raw materials, then it can bring down the cost, which will make us more competitiveness and then help us reach parity. That's all I can say or share with you today. Thank you very much. We have a second session going on. And do you have anything else to say to add? Fuel cells and battery process, that's what you mentioned. So let me tell you our cases. Eco-friendly ships, no matter whether it's a coastal ship or the outbound sea boat. As for the coastal ships, batteries are widely used. As for the sea boat, fuel cell, ammonia are mainly used so that it can produce the power on a long term. And hydrogen will be used for the future. And submarines, hydrogen cells and batteries will be used together. In order to recharge, it requires oxygen, which means that hydrogen cells are required. Unless you have a nuclear-powered submarines, you need to have a hydrogen power for the submarines. And then ask them to use a microphone. We cannot hear the audience. Can you use a microphone? As for the current situation, we have large ships. Let's say that we have the US Tesla and we have Nikola, and they may use hydrogen for fuel. So what is your outlook for the future? As for the vehicles, I was with the vehicle company. That's why you asked the question to me. And let me talk about the real application. Nexo of Hyundai, it's run on hydrogen. But as for the output power, 30% is from batteries. There should be an optimal point. 100% hydrogen or engineering capability or finance, taking that into account, I believe that they should find the optimal point. You mentioned Nikola. Nikola uses a lot of batteries too. Ship-wise, 100% hydrogen-powered boat, sea boat, or 100% hydrogen-powered commercial trucks? Yes, it's feasible. But from the engineering optimization point, we need to consider or take into account what is the optimal combination of that. From one application to another, from one product to another, depending on the features, we may find different solutions optimal. So can you make the final comment? There are no one single right answer to that. When we have the system engineering into account and fuel cell, hydrogen cells included, all of them will coexist in the market. Thank you so much. I believe that he hit the point. Fuel cells, Elon Musk once said that fuel cells is a full set. It's a foolish cell. It's what he said. It indicates how controversial this fuel cell area is. Today, we are here to talk about batteries. So for the future sessions, let me have a look at the fuel session independently. Let's move on to the second session of today's forum. And before that, I'd like to introduce one of the important distinguished guests. It was around 2005 when industry was launched. He was leading the Ministry of Industry of Korea. He studied engineering, and he was the right person to lead that ministry. And thank you for joining the session. Thank you. When we launched semiconductor business in 1983, Samsung built factories, demolishing Greenbelt. And Hyundai Motors built new plant around there in Icheon too. When Samsung launched semiconductor business the first time, there was strong resistance, opposition from the industry, business, and the academy. But no matter what, Samsung launched semiconductor business and made a success out of that. Now, what's going on? Semiconductor has been the main driver for our economy. And later in 1995, and the ministry came up with the data without semiconductor business. And they blamed the semiconductor for a slump in export. And as for the semiconductor, the market was somewhat gloomy last year. TSMC and NVIDIA, they are first runners, and Chinese companies are running ahead of us. And in the competition landscape, I believe that Samsung and Hyundai need to make further efforts. So we have lost the market to NVIDIA and TSMC. Not only for the semiconductor, but also for the next generation industry. Yesterday, Biden enacted semiconductor law to provide a huge amount of subsidy. Japanese government is doing the same to attract huge investment. So we have to have a look at what's going on in other countries. So for the next generation battery, the battery market will exceed the volume of the semiconductor next year. So let's have a look what's going on in China. Chinese government has provided a great amount of subsidy to the batteries to beat Korea. And while they are doing so, what have we done? We have shrunk the R&D investment, which was wrong. So the government and business need to cooperate. Public-private network and collaboration, it's more needed than any time. With this, I'd like to conclude my remark. Thank you so much. This concludes our first session. Let's move on to the second session without any break. Let's move on to the next break.
So we will end the first session here, and we will begin our second session presently. So let's give a round of applause to the presenters as well as the discussants. Session 2, Status of Global Battery Supply Chain, Implication for E-Mobility Industry in Korea, will be conducted now. Our first speaker will be Kang Tae-kyung, the CEO of EN Plus, will be followed by Mr. Vic Narousis, Arizona Commerce Authority, as well as Professor Albert Lam, and Representative Yu Chung-yeol and CEO Bang Song-yeol. Could you please step up to the stage?
진행을 위해서
So please, let's have all the discussants and the presenters for the second session come up to the stage.
강태경 대표님,
President Kang,
알버트 람,
Professor Albert Lam,
공급망 관련된 주제 발표시죠. 자, 2차 세션 시작하.
we will now begin the second session.
그러니까 이분이 저 여기죠? 예. 저분.
So as soon as everyone has taken their seats, we will begin. We would thank you for taking your seats, and we will hear from CEO Kang Tae-kyung of EN Plus about the global battery supply chain. EN Plus, it is an organization focused on secondary battery materials. And originally it was about firefighting vehicles, right? And recently you have been working on materials. Hello, as introduced, my name is Kang Tae-kyung of EN Plus. Thank you for inviting me to this meaningful session. And I will be speaking on global battery supply chain and implications for e-mobility industry in Korea. And I will also be talking a little bit about the next generation materials that are being created by our company. Myself, I have also been working as a developer in Samsung SDI. Then I was scouted to work elsewhere for about 4 years. I haven't yet bought an EV myself. And I think this is related to driving distance on a single charge. And going to and fro from Seoul to Busan is about 800 kilometers. Recently, Xiaomi not only has made good big strides in phones, but also they have announced the SU7, a Xiaomi car. The Xiaomi SU7 is a Chinese EV, but it is very sensational. Our host, Electronics Times, has also given a report on Xiaomi SU7. The Xiaomi car, 50,000 reservations were made and 90,000 cars were sold in 30 minutes. So it says there is about 810 kilometers on a single charge. And they say that this large amount of reservations was a non-refundable purchase. In this car, there's LFP and NCM batteries included.
NCM을 사용했을 때는 대략
NCM has about 800 kilometer driving range, and the price range is about $55 million, so million Korean won. So at this price, with this driving range, I think this is a very attractive proposition. Recently, we have been talking about semiconductors, foundry companies, TSMC and Samsung Electronics. We have been talking about these, but we will be seeing more and more OEMs for automakers as well. And therefore, there will be more batteries that will be necessary. So, benchmarking China, we will need to benchmark Xiaomi, Beijing Car, CATL. In Korea, Hyundai and Kia Motors are the two big players. And we believe that other players will be bigger competitors to the major players in the market right now. Earlier on, we talked about the market size. And at our company, EM Plus, our focus is on firefighting vehicles. Last year, from June, we have been working on materials globally. EN Plus has about, since last June, about 5 billion Korean won. From that amount, we have achieved about 2 to 3-fold increase in terms of materials sales. And we have been sending our materials to car manufacturers as a first vendor in Korea as well as in the US. So we have lots of information and access to a lot of information in this regard. So when I was in the US and in overseas plants, I will share my experiences. So they say that there's a choice to be made, LFP or NCM. In the US, they say NCM is the way to go. I asked why, and they say cathode material and the battery materials wise, LFP is cheaper. However, this accounts for only 5 to 10% of the total EV price. Reusability wise, however, if we consider LFP, NCM, the energy density is almost the same. So instead of going both routes, we may want to go the compact route. So in the US, in March, I heard that this is the reason why they are going with NCM. So in the premium market, especially in Mercedes-Benz, the Pure EV, this is the only company with Pure EV. And internal combustion cars, there's about one out of the, it may cost about 3 million Korean won, but they are not aiming for number of cars sold, but they are working on a good quality of cars. So last year and this year, it accounted for about 20% of their sales. So in the entire world, battery companies say that CAGR growth 20%. The battery industry is the only industry that has such growth. So then, in the U.S., why is the EV market facing difficulties? The clients mention or they question why is Hyundai and Kia cars being so successful? They have HVs, they have different applications, PHEVs, BEVs as well. So in California, since it's warm, the EV may not suffer from the weather, but in other areas, Michigan, Detroit, there may be difference in temperature. So in the process of going over from industrial internal combustion to pure EV, there are difficulties. So HEVs are bridging the gap. So this is the total roadmap toward going toward entire pure EV fleets. So we have covered a lot of what I wanted to cover earlier by other speakers. So let me just hit some of the highlights. This is the shrinking demand of EVs. Let's go over to the slides in the back. Last year, the EV markets were very good. However, about out of 100 million cars, about 90% penetration was achieved. However, now it is about 70%. So there was about 11% decrease. However, there was about a $1 trillion market. So the Korean battery market also still has lots of opportunities. So let me give you highlight some points of differentiation. Why are EVs until 2023? It was really good. However, later on in the year, why did it become so hard for that industry? In the U.S., the high interest rates, it affected loans available for vehicle purchase. So purchasing power became weakened. In terms of EVs, it may be the product for early adopters. And after the early adopters have bought up their earlier available cars, then the commercial and regular users would follow. But now the chasm zone has actually become realized. So if we look at Golf, from the 2000s to 2015s, lots of people who were well off used to play golf. But nowadays, golf has become more popularized. Just so, EVs, before, it was for the more affluent. However, now we believe that it will become more popularized. So, although the EVs and batteries, they say that they are having a difficult time, they still have a CAGR of over 20%. So next slide, we will go over to this slide. The solid-state battery market, there's varying opinions on this. Last year, Quantum, Solid, and all these companies are facing difficulties. Actual products coming out and commercialization is facing difficulties. Competitiveness is also suffering. So solid-state batteries may proceed at a slower pace than expected. Materials we are selling to solid-state battery companies as well. And these companies are facing some difficulties, so I believe that they may be on the cusp of real risk. In Europe, recently, there has been a EU battery regulation related to life cycle management. And next, let's go into secondary battery materials and equipment. So cathode and anode materials will continue to grow. Equipment will also keep growing, is my expectation. Recently, HEV related, LG or Samsung SK, these companies, they are looking into the auto market, and they are dominant in that market. Our company, a small and medium-sized company, is focusing on another market. So HEV market in the US, internalization and production is being focused over there, and it's order-focused. However, this is why our smaller companies are able to survive and have continuous growth. So I have given you a short update on the status of the battery market. The CTO of LG has given us some keywords of dry next generation battery. He talked about dry electrodes. And if we look back at semiconductors, there was a lot of HEV issues that have been discussed since last year. And we have also been looking into dry electrodes. And let me give you a short primer on dry electrodes that we have been working on. We were established. This is our general information on our company. We have revenue of 41.06 million in 2023. So we have a lot of work in CNT, and there's a lot of explosions in NCM, and we are mainly focusing on in supplying fire retardant materials. So dry electrodes, the left is wet and right is dry. There's lots of processes involved, and there's a lot of facilities involved. We are small sized, but our line is about 80 meters long. LG and SK, they have lines that are exceeding 300 meters long. However, the dry electrode, the 80-meter line is shortened to 10 meters only. So all of the long line of work that needs to be done in the wet electrode can be done in the dry electrode. It can be done with the facility that you see in the middle here in white. So these are some of the reasons why electricity consumption, heating, all of these are reasons why we need to go into dry processing. So dry electrodes, what we need to do with this, we need to do pre-treatment, and we need to utilize primers. So the primer coating agents, we have this in our line. We have developed it, and we are using it in our process. So in our line, we are able to do pre-treatment. And Samsung, LG, SK, they do not have this technology. This is our proprietary technology. This is a short explanation of our technology. And LFP, NCM, anodes, roll-to-roll manufacturing is possible at our plant. And so globally, we expect to see some good news in the near future. The most important factor in dry processing is, compared to wet processing, is conductivity. it needs to have higher conductivity than wet processing. So the dry solid state is hard to do because conductivity is so key in its processing. So this is key to those companies. Already we have worked on LFP and CM, and we already see that we have higher conductivity compared to wet processing. The cathode anode separator, electrodes, additives. But we have all those technologies, but the most important technology would be CNT technologies, and this would be the most important key process in dry processing. So this would be our competitive edge compared to the three major companies. So our main subject for today is implications for e-mobility. If we use dry electrodes and apply 60 watts, then the weight would be reduced by about 31.5 kilograms if we apply 60 ampere. So the lightweightness of the battery itself would also contribute to the longer range of the car itself as well. And the physical save that has been saved, it may make room for cooling as well as AI autonomous driving systems as well. So cost saving, manufacturing advantages, these may be important. However, the lightweightness and being able to install or mount next generation technology related to autonomous driving may be an advantage as well. So in the latter part of this year, we hope to be selling cathode electrode and anode electrode rolls. These are some of the details that we have been discussing with our clients. So these are dry electrode processes. These are special engineering processes for dry electrodes. So here I will end my presentation. Thank you very much.
시간이 많이 갔습니다.
Thank you so much. We are behind schedule, so I believe that our foreign discussants are online. Yes. So I'm going to invite Vic Narcius, the Executive Vice President of Arizona Commerce Authority. I think that you are online, so would you please begin your presentation?
We would like to invite you to have some comments of the Arizona Commerce Authority's point of view of the globalization of the international battery. Please.
Yes, thank you and good morning. While I'm searching for my presentation, here we go. One moment, please. All right. Well, again, good morning. It's an honor to be with you today to share a little bit of information with you about the Arizona EV and battery supply chain. I've found the conversation very interesting, and I know that a lot of the battery discussion has revolved around auto. But before I start my presentation, I do want to mention that a great deal of the battery usage here in Arizona is by our utility companies and data centers. In Arizona, we're very fortunate because of the great amount of sunshine we have, that it is the best area in the United States to generate solar power. Our problem in Arizona historically has been we don't have the storage capacity to utilize all the power that can be generated. And along those lines, I was at a ribbon cutting ceremony last Thursday with one of our utility providers, Next Energy, an energy providing company, and Google. And it was a ribbon cutting for a solar field that would generate 260 megawatts and had a 1 gigawatt hour battery storage facility with it that would be used exclusively by Google for one of their new AI dedicated facilities in Arizona. Arizona, and specifically Phoenix, is the second largest market for data centers in the United States. And when I had an opportunity to ask the Google global executive for power, who was at the event, why Arizona, her answer said, it's very simple, power. We can get power from the sun in Arizona. That's why we're here. That's why everyone else is coming to Arizona. So I want to put that out there, even though the bulk of my comments are going to relate to EV and battery. I don't want that to be overlooked, and I think it's an important thing to remember. So a little bit about Arizona, in case you don't know, we do have, as you know, I believe, an office in Korea. It is led there by Julie Kim, who's in your presence. Julie, thank you very much for helping support this. And Sewon also is a very valuable member of our team, and we're really very honored to have them as part of our Arizona team. So just for perspective purposes, a little bit about the relationship between Arizona and Korea. Over $1 billion in trade, both directions. And this is before LG has begun production in its $5.5 billion US plant in suburban Phoenix. There's some familiar names there between our countries, as you can see in those logos, maybe most notably LG Energy Solution. There was a lot of discussion previously about how these sectors are coming together that were once separate. And we used this graphic to identify the companies that are located in Arizona and how they now work together much more closely than ever. On the left, we have our battery and energy storage companies. I think people are very familiar with our semiconductor companies that were mentioned, but also increasingly on the upper right, our automotive manufacturing, which I'll talk more about. And then on the bottom left, our natural resources and raw materials providers. Arizona is the #1 state for copper production in the United States, and it's one of the leading locations in the world. And we are now also beginning to mine lithium in Arizona. And it's interesting, again, how all these tie together. And as I mentioned, even data centers now, because they rely on storage to capture that solar energy. A little bit about mining. #1 for mining non-fuel materials in the United States. One of the most attractive, #2 in the United States for attracting additional mining, and 4th largest mining in the United States. It's the basis of the raw materials from which all of the products that we're talking today originate, and it's a critical supply chain item. So a little bit about some of the leading battery companies in Arizona. LG Energy Solutions, I think, very well known, and we're very honored to have them as a staple and as our lead here in Arizona. Related to them is Scion Power, a company in Flagstaff that has recently received a significant investment by LG for battery research. American Battery Factory, ABF, on the far bottom right, a new battery facility in Tucson. And then we have recycling companies that were also spoken about. Ecobat is one, Li-Cycle is another. The recycling of batteries will be a critical element of this. There's a lot of discussion about how auto batteries, once they're used for auto, they may have a second life for longer term large storage, possibly for use in large packs in solar applications. So there's a number of different ways to also look at recycling of batteries. As far as battery research, Arizona State University has very extensive battery research. I won't go into each of these. You're more familiar with these than I am, but suffice it to say that Arizona State University has significant capabilities in research and can be, I think, an important partner to your activities. A very nice quote here, very honored to have this from LG Energy Solution. You can read it for yourself, but it's stating the importance of Arizona to LG. This is LG Energy Solutions' largest standalone battery plant in the United States. Switching over a little bit to the EV sector, there was mention made of Nikola and the trucks. They make their both hydrogen and electric trucks just south of Phoenix. Lucid Motors in the middle. It was the car of the year in the United States last year. That is also made just south of Phoenix. And then another type of vehicle, heavy equipment. Caterpillar relocated their heavy equipment mining operations from Peoria, Illinois to just south of Tucson. And in that, they are now developing and have operational battery-powered trucks to work in the mines. And then a similarly complimentary quote from the CEO of Lucid Motors regarding their selection of Arizona. What I would identify additionally is part of the reason they chose Arizona, even though they're headquartered in the Bay Area of California, lower operating costs than California, much lower regulatory environment than California, and close proximity to the Mexico supply chain just across the border in Mexico. Many of you have probably heard about the tensions between Texas and Mexico. We do not have that between Arizona and Mexico. We work very closely with the northern states of Mexico in our economic development activities, more closely than we work with other states in the United States to leverage the supply chain that exists between us. And so that could be another important factor to leveraging that sort of supply chain growth. So there's a lot of talk about all these important resources, but at the end of the day, pardon me, at the end of the day, the most important resource is the human resource. You can have the best equipment, the best location, but unless you have the right people to operate all this sophisticated equipment, that equipment isn't utilized. And so at the foundation of a technical workforce is a growing population. Arizona has among the fastest growing population in the United States. You can see how rapidly it is growing. And now Phoenix is the 10th largest metropolitan area in the United States. We've just passed Boston, and we are the largest metropolitan area west of Texas, other than Los Angeles. So we have the scale and the mass to support large-scale operations. As I mentioned, Maricopa County, where Phoenix is located, 3 years in a row, fastest growing county in the United States, largest growing metropolitan area, the third largest, and Arizona last year, the 5th fastest growing state as well. So that all supports workforce. You can't have a growing workforce without a growing population. And so following the population, Maricopa County is the #1 county in the United States 5 of the last 6 years for attracting and retaining talent, the 3rd highest job growth rate, and a number of other high-level workforce achievements are identified there. We've worked very hard with our community college and our university partners to achieve this. So while an important aspect of workforce is a growing population, unless you educate them properly, they don't match with industry. And we work very closely with our community college and our university partners to create that workforce that these and your organizations need. An example of that are 2 state of Arizona run workforce training centers, one called Drive 48 that was developed for Lucid Motors to assist them in their employment that will ultimately be more than 3,000. And then Future 48, which is LG's battery training facility that we worked with Central Arizona College and Pinal County to create this special training facility. And maybe a final word on Arizona's educational system that is necessary to operate all this sophisticated equipment. No other state in the United States has the largest public university. Arizona State University is the largest university in the United States. 80,000 on campus, 145,000 total enrolled. We have Arizona State has the largest engineering school in the country, over 31,000 students just in the engineering school. We also have the United States' largest unified community college district, Maricopa Community College in Phoenix. That's important because as an employer, you don't want to go to 10 or 12 different community colleges who don't work together. These community colleges, 10 community colleges in 31 locations, work together to provide your needs. There are nearly 100,000 enrolled there, and those are critical to training the technicians. And Arizona is the #1 state for the most number of top 100 high schools in the United States with 12. We have more than Texas, we have more than New York, we have more than California. I talked a little bit about proximity to Mexico, which is the 6th largest EV exporter, an important part of the supply chain, but we're close, very close to Los Angeles, only a 5.5-hour drive from the ports, and has resulted in a great expansion of warehouse and distribution out of California to the Phoenix area. And we're a little over a day's drive from Dallas. So between those 3 major markets of California, Texas, and Mexico, we reach over 86 million people. Power reliability is critical to this. This is mission critical. You all know you cannot have your operations cease. You'll note that Arizona has the 2nd fewest power outages the last 5 years of any state in the United States, as compared to some other states. Most notably, Texas and California have the highest number of power outages in the United States. We have a strong pro-business environment. These are rankings provided by others. Site Selection Magazine, which is the premier economic development magazine in the United States, identifies Arizona as the #1 competitive state in the mountain region, which is essentially between the Midwest and California. And we are top 3 for economic performance of any state in the United States. So in summary, just a quick overview of the Arizona battery EV ecosystem. We have mining companies that support the beginning of the ecosystem and process. We have the battery companies now growing. We've mentioned LG, American Battery Factory, Scion. Urbix is an important provider of graphite here in Arizona. We have the vehicle makers in proximity to the Mexico supply chain. And finally, we are strategically located between and are one of the 5 largest states for EV registrations in the United States. The 5 highlighted blue states there represent 53% of the US EV registrations, and Arizona is one of those top 5 of the 10 states in the United States. So with that, I promise to keep my comments short. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. And on behalf of our governor, Governor Hobbs, and Sandra Watson, our president, I thank you and look forward to working more closely with you.
네, 말씀해 주셔서 감사.
invitation. Yeah, yeah.
Next, we are very short on time. However,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep it short. I think during this conference, I heard a lot of related topic about battery, about how we can promote more adoption of electric vehicle. But we have to look at current situation in the world context. There is a macro level and there is a micro level. So as you know, the last result from Tesla as well as from BYD in their Q1 result, both have declined in terms of the adoption of the EV. Tesla sales has shrunk by 20% quarter on quarter, and then BYD was down 13%. These are the leading company of selling electric vehicles. So it actually cascade down into the industry as well. So China is going through a tough time economically. Not only the sanction and the kind of sanction and the fight between US. Internally, the real estate bubble has burst. So the cash availability has shrunk up. A lot of people are having a second thought in terms of buying a new car. So they are not running out to adopt electric vehicle. Although the growth between gasoline purchase as well as, say, EV purchase, EV is still outgrowing gasoline vehicles because of the fact that the government is encouraging, still have subsidies and encouraging the wider adoption of electric vehicle. But nevertheless, it is still very, very a difficult time for, I don't expect that will improve. The second quarter is not going to have a better outlook in terms of adoption of electric vehicle. The two leaders are still looking at price war. And the biggest problem is that I see is because now the second-hand market, because the electric vehicle wide adoption has been for the last 5 years now, since 2019. And there is a wave of second-hand car coming on stream. And people looking at it is that while you're having the price war, my second-hand car has been depreciated, let's say, up to 80% of the original price, because they are having a price war that the new car is dropping. So there's no value to your second-hand vehicle. So it's taking a tougher look in terms of whether I should buy the next electric car. So people are now switching back to hybrid vehicle as well as gasoline vehicle in Europe, certainly, and also in part of China. So that situation is not going to improve in the short term, and it will that will have a cascade effect on the battery. Now, as you know, more and more capacity has been built towards building battery manufacturing plant. And I always say is that you are as green as the source of your energy when you talk about electric vehicle. I say that again. You're as green as the source of your energy when you're talking about electric car, because if you had dirty energy charging your car, you're no better off by gasoline car. Yes, you improve the environment by on the roadside, the pollution is less. But nowadays, the emission is so regulated, the pipeline, the tailpipe pollution is very, very minimal. So with that backdrop, you are still talking about, how can we reduce the vehicle of EV so that it can be competitive to a gasoline vehicle. Now, the only thing I can see is that's why one of our key focus in our company is talking about second life battery, right? But before I go into that, the second life battery usage, I just want to touch on the creation of the battery. Now, I don't know how many of you, of course, if you're in the industry, you will know. Actually, it takes a lot of energy to create a battery, a piece of battery, that you need a lot of energy because there is a process, not making the battery, but it's called forming the battery. What you do is that you go through 5 cycles of maturing the material, and that will be discharge and charging the material again of the battery, so that they call it formation and forming. And before that, you can't use the battery. So you're talking about using megawatts of energy, probably dirty energy, right, if you're using a coal power station, to create this battery that you're going to use in your car. Now, of course, if you have a battery that is using renewable energy doing the forming, then your battery is green. It's truly green. So that part of it that we really need to be aware of how that battery is being created. Now, I'm sure that LG, that's why earlier the speaker, the CTO was talking about, they are looking at technology that reduce the forming process or even eliminate the forming process so that you don't have to use this energy to form the battery. Right, so that's one big, I would say, bad point about battery vehicle, right? I'm all champion. I've been doing battery vehicles since 2009. My team and I actually built the first Tesla for Tesla. So I'm a champion for electric vehicle. But then as the technology mature, you have to step back and really take a step back and say, is this really green? Are we doing the right thing about reducing the carbon footprint on the planet? So that's one point. Now, second life battery, no one talks about that, right? Do you know what happened to the battery in Tesla now, at the moment, when you give back your car or when the car is scrapped? The battery pack is actually scrapped because they have not built in and have the idea of building in second life usage. Now, why is this so tough at the moment, second life usage, right? For your, let's say, 80 kilowatt hour battery on its own, right? Okay, you can power a home, you can have a small unit you can use. But if you're trying to use in conjunction with another pack that's balanced by a different balancing system, even it's the same Tesla, same model, right? You have Tesla owned by Joe, you have Tesla owned by Mike. They drive differently. So the battery itself has matured differently, has aged differently. So you can't really put those battery pack together, right, and strip the cell and then try to reuse it in a bigger context, let's say for ESS, for energy storage. That's the tough part. So our company has been looking at this since, our company has been looking at this since very early on. And what we have done is that we have a system that independently linking all these battery packs together, right? Not balancing it together, but linking it together to release the energy. So we can have a megawatt or gigawatts of battery linking different battery packs together. But still, we cannot forget about that, because why? If you have a second life treatment for your battery pack, you can reduce the car prices in the market, because you know the residual value, you can compensate and have a reusable life for it. So you can build your economy of that vehicle according to it. Because you say, okay, I don't have to sell it for $16,000 US. I can sell it for 15 or even 12, because I know I can take back the battery after the vehicle has exceeded its life. Then I can still have the residual use of energy storage for, it's worth more than $4,000 US. So that's another part. Then finally, I think some of the speakers early on talked about that as well. It's the recycling of the material. There's a lot of people are doing that as a living. A lot of companies have set up just to recycle and recover the cobalt. And that's very useful. Then you feed back onto the system. Otherwise, you will continue as this kind of so-called green in perception, but truly it's not green at all. So I will encourage us in terms of future is don't just look at the vehicles while running on the road. Oh, I'm doing the environmental changes and I'm being nice to the environment. You're not, right? Cycle if you're really being, and take public transport, because still owning a car or car sharing is important. Owning a car is still very, very environmental, not friendly. It's because of the fact that you take a lot of energy to create a car. You take a lot of energy to create the steel. But if you are taking public transport, that's why I think government should invest a lot more in infrastructure or building public transport if they are truly to be green, right? And then, of course, an autonomous vehicle will be the future because you can then share cars, share resources. How many of us has parked the car outside when we arrive? 8 hours here, the car is not being used, right? You go to work, it's the same thing. So I will encourage us, don't just look at the car itself, but look at the whole holistic view of the whole environment, how we can really work together to reduce that type of carbon footprint. Thank you.
예, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for your comments. Contributing to the green environment, the eco-friendliness through EVs. Thank you for speaking on this. Next, we will hear from Mr. Yu Chung-yeol, representative of the Ministry of Commerce, Government of Quebec in Korea. Hello, everyone. I have attended this forum several times in the past. However, it is today I felt that more than any previous sessions, there was an emphasis on our current eco-friendly centered talk. And I am glad that I am able to contribute to the more environmentally friendliness of Korea. Then let me give you my talk on how the green battery production and Quebec will take the lead in terms of green battery production. Quebec is located in the east side of Canada. And the landmass is about 14 times that of Korea. Quebec uses French. And of the Francophone regions in the world, it is the biggest. In this vast region, there is lots of critical and strategic minerals. And Quebec works hand in hand with the federal government to develop these materials and is helping contribute to the 2030 plan for a green economy, especially for developing materials. We have created an overall plan. Also, the LPP battery patent is held by Hydro-Quebec. There is an innovation center here, and there's a person called Karin Chaiv, and their research has contributed a lot to the batteries. So this was possible only because the government has given a lot of support, as is the case with the U.S. as well. In the North America region, Quebec is among the lowest GHG emitters in North America. Quebec also has energy production of 99%. 99% of all energy is created through Hydro-Quebec the 1% we have wind power production as well. So in Ontario and other states, we are sending our leftover electricity as well. So we are emphasizing cooperation with other regions and countries, and we have been going hand to hand with the California region, with the Quebec-California carbon market, with the cap and trade emissions system. So our strategy for green responsible battery manufacturing is by using renewable sources. And this goes with what was mentioned earlier. We need to use green energy sources. And to be called a truly green country, then we need to use truly clean energy sources. So the materials such as nickel, manganese, cobalt that are required for batteries, we are actually mining these resources in Quebec as well. We will cover this later on, but our region, we are able to produce and supply minerals critical to batteries. And some countries, other countries that produce and mine these essential critical minerals are sometimes unstable. So stableness of the region is another plus in our favor. The green renewable energy created by Hydro-Quebec 99% of the electricity from generated in Quebec is from clean and renewable sources, and Quebec has 29% carbon intensity of the energy supply among selected provinces and states. So the Eastern Canada region, let's look at the Eastern Canada region where we are mining resources. We account for about 1/5 of all materials and mined materials. So especially for lithium mines, we have 7 lithium mines. 3 of them are in operation. So cobalt and nickel, these critical materials exist and are available for mining in our state. So the difficulties that Korea has related to materials may be resolved by partnering with Quebec. So many environmental issues that are associated with mining minerals, they do not exist they exist a lot less in Quebec. So Quebec is not only resource rich, but it is also very market accessible. So not only do we have the Rust Belt nearby, but accessibility is very high. I've been working in the battery industry since 2018. Cell pack module factories, I've been to all of these. And during my efforts, I had to look into the pros and cons of the Quebec area. Quebec does not have an OEM, so we had to change our strategy. We decided to go for manufacturing cathode anode materials and all these raw materials. Manufacturing has become our new focus recently. Korean companies have come into Quebec. Research and development is very active, especially in EV. Hydro-Quebec has an auto R&D division as well. Research is very active. Samsung, SDI, LG, and SK. These companies have started cooperations, and regarding solid-state batteries as well as the precursors, research has gone. A lot of research has gone into these subjects, and there is lots of activity under the bridge. So then, how can we expand our ecosystem? So if you look at the chart, the value chain that Quebec has, you can see this in one view. So mining, lithium, graphite, and nickel, and cobalt or phosphate, all of these are available for mining. Especially for graphite, we have a company called Numoco Metals with Pohang Steel that have been working along with Korean companies. So not only do we do mining of raw materials, but we also do processing such as refining and activating materials. So lithium refining techniques have also been improved as well. So since a long time ago, many refineries and expertise in these areas have been activated, and active materials in LFP and such have also been have been developed. Especially, there's a spin-off company of Hydro-Quebec. They use LFP to make ESS. And recently in Korea, there is active movement toward LMC, LCM batteries. There's cooperation in this area as well. POSCO, GME, Ultimachem, we have been supplying to them, Ultimum Chem. And so the Quebec state government and the Canada, the federal government, have been putting investment into these companies, the GM POSCO joint company. Also, there is a joint investment going into Ford EcoPro BM as well. So these two companies entering into Quebec now has become so active, so much as so that it has become almost a small Korea. Also, if we look at the battery components, cathode material, anode material, not only those, but we also have copper foil manufacturers as well. As you know, Solus is a company which has the name Volta Energy in Europe. It has invested into Quebec as well, and production will begin soon. Also, they are doing materials development as well. So, Quebec has a very advantageous geographic location, and though there were some issues, the cell manufacturing plant is planned to go up soon, so the value chain will be completed and up and running in Quebec soon. The second life or end-of-life recycling is already continuing and is ongoing in Quebec as well. CES has awarded us with an innovative award in this regard as well. Including black mass, we are able to recover 95% of materials, such as lithium. We have invested, co-invested with Korea to upgrade this recycling capability. There is worry, however, of end battery reusing. So we are still in the works of finding out how much the market will be, how big the market will be for end-of-life batteries. In Canada, lithium is already processing these end-of-life batteries, lithium inside these end-of-life batteries. So all across Quebec, there is Nemesca Lithium, Nouveau Monde. They are lithium mining companies. We have Canadian companies that work in not only in BMS, but also working with upgrading materials going into batteries to reduce the risk of battery explosions. So recently, the projects that have been conducted, let me recap. We have Ultimum, we have Nemaska, and Acro Pro BM, as well as Northvolt. Vale also has a partnership for nickel manufacturing. Then why develop the Quebec battery industry? There is about, let us speed up. Thank you very much. We have actually exceeded our allotted time. Quebec, as I mentioned earlier, has a very low cost of production. We have more than 40 research organizations and is very accessible and has strong government support. Lastly, we have a cost advantage in salaries for employees as well. So thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. So in the last page, oh, you were on the last page when I asked you to speed up. My apologies. Then, please, the floor is yours. Hello, my name is Kim Jae-yeon. It is before lunchtime, so I will shorten my presentation as short as possible. My prepared remarks are about the EV market trends in the Middle East, and I would like to talk about the demand side. So do you have the presentation? So while we wait for the slides, let me give you a short introduction of Bahrain. It's a member of the GCC, the Gulf Corporation. And in the Middle East, it is politically stable and economically well off. So it is one of the 6 GCC countries. Recently, so I think we have the slides up. Let's go to the next slide, please. So recently, Korea-GCC relationships have been strengthened. Last year, in the end of the year, there was an agreement that strengthened in economic ties between Korea and GCC, and I believe our relationships will continue to improve. Demand-wise, let me give you an explanation. So Saudi Arabia has, for the first time, has created its own electric vehicle maker called Seer. About $6 billion have been invested into, will be invested into creating this EV maker. Many countries in the GCC have created goals for EVs, and by 2050, 50% of the cars is hopefully will be electric vehicle. Market research-wise, we have similar results. Well, $8 billion market will be right now with a CAGR of 10%. Will be enhanced to $6.4 billion. And in 2028, the market size will increase by more than twofold. So demand-wise, there will be lots of increase, as well as population increase, as well as governmental incentives. So Korean companies, e-mobility related, will have a good time entering into our region. However, it is physically distant from Korea, so we believe that Bahrain would be a good manufacturing and logistics partner. Bahrain is a small company, about as the size as the city of Seoul. About 50% of the 1.5 million is expats, and most people speak more than 2 languages. Bahrain, for a long time, have been focusing on industrial diversification. So the EDB has been formulated with this goal in mind of diversification. And so oil and gas dependence on the economic dependence has fallen all the way down to 16.1%. One of the reasons was geographical. Bahrain is connected to Saudi Arabia and is only 5 hours away by car to Riyadh. And FTA is signed with the U.S. as well as with other countries, so there is an advantage in bringing sourcing materials. So with the expansion of EV markets, one of the most important issues is making the cars more light, and aluminum is very important. So Alba, which is a aluminum manufacturing plant, it is located in Bahrain and is supplying aluminum to downstream companies. Alongside these advantages, Another advantage of Bahrain is the low operational costs. Other countries, compared to other countries in the Middle East, manufacturing operation costs can be lower by 56% compared to other regions. Also, there is 0% corporate tax and many other advantages besides. And logistics-wise, we have advantages as well. Manufacturing, logistics. We have also the BIP, International Investment Park, BIP, where corporate tax is waived for 10 years. The Bahrain International Airport is connected, and there is only 10-20 minutes distance from the ports and the airports, so logistics is very advantageous. These are some of the renowned companies that have come into Bahrain, exporting their goods to US and Europe. And regarding the expansion of Korean e-mobility in Korea, exports will be important, as well as supplying the e-mobility market, and the battery demand is growing up. So Korea, I hope, will see that Bahrain has a very corporate-friendly environment, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kim Jae-won. Then here we will end the second session. The second session, we have people from the US, Canada, Bahrain. It is truly a global forum. So we have heard a lot of insight from real-life workers who are on the ground working. So I'm sure you were unable to say everything that you had in mind, but please give us your insight and pointers to us and our Korean governments. We have been speaking for almost 2.5 hours now. Thank you for keeping your seats for this long period and for your attention to the presentations. Thank you again to the presenters and discussants. Thank you, everyone. Here we will end the 11th Global Battery Industry Forum. However, the Battery Forum will not end here. The business luncheon will go on right after this here. So, Mr. Kim Jae-won, if you have not spoken with Mr. Kim Jae-won and others, please make your way to the business luncheon so that you may network with these important people. Thank you, everyone, to the discussions. Please make your way to Delicia on the 3rd floor. We have a reserved tables. If you go to the boardroom, there should be a sign that says Battery Forum. There's 2 tables, so there you can do the business luncheon and networking. Thank you for your attention very much. Thank you very much.